All right, we are talking today about all things. We're talking about everything that matters for your health, and we're going to try and do it in 15 minutes. Okay, so the goal here is summarizing our content that we've done to this point. We've talked about a lot of different topics, and occasionally it can be good to just go back and give the bird's eye view on everything. How does this all fit together, right? So one thing we've been working on in general with the quality of our podcasts is talking slower. Both Peter and myself get excited, talk fast in general, especially when we're talking about stuff we're excited about, which is all of this. But today we're saying, screw that. We're going to talk fast. We're going to get this stuff done in 15 minutes efficiently for you.
And we're officially going to have a timer here so we can keep ourselves on track and see how well we do. And our hope with this is that you can come back and reference this every so often. Maybe you get stuck or you're like, I feel like I'm missing something. You can come back to this podcast, listen to these big topics that we're going to do in a short amount of time and maybe hone in, this is the one I want to do this month. So that's the goal here. Like you said, it's just a nice synopsis of a whole bunch of stuff.
Indeed. And if you need to listen on 0.8 speed, that's totally okay, right? You have that option because we might get cruising here, but we'll see. All right, so
you ready? You ready?
I think let's go over our objectives and,
okay.
and then let's give ourselves a little extra time.
I was a little excited. Sorry.
Objectives for today: again, summarize our content to this point. What really matters above all else, and do it in 15 minutes. We're going to talk about exercise, mobility, strength, and cardiovascular work specifically. We're going to talk about nutrition, total intake, sufficient protein, and quality whole foods. And we're going to talk about sleep and stress management, kind of time and quality, circadian rhythm, regulating stress. So those are our topics. Okay, so our 15 minutes is going to start.
You ready?
I'm ready. Ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, here we go. So exercise, right? Let's tackle mobility first. The concept that we want you to take home is that we want you to have access to your normative ranges and positions. So you don't need to be putting your foot behind your head. But hey, just like what should a human being be able to do? We want you to be able to do those things, right? Methods. What methods are you going to use to do that? We want you to have a daily or a weekly, and probably both, practice that moves you through full ranges of every joint. So it might be a small daily routine and maybe a longer weekly routine mixed in. That would be a good option, especially focusing on your ankles, your hips, your spine, and your shoulders. Another way you can do this is by doing full range of motion strength training, right? If I'm doing overhead work and deep push-ups, that's great for my shoulders. Deep squats and lunges are great for my hips. So that alone can be a great way to ensure you have access to your full ranges. Sneaking in mobility snacks throughout the day is another great method. Can you just sit on the floor while you watch TV or while you do some homework? My mom sat on the floor doing her schoolwork for years as a teacher, and she's pretty dang mobile now in her later years. I won't tell you how old she is because she'd get mad at me. So those are all good methods to meet this concept, right? How do you know if you're doing enough here? What's the performance indicator? How do you feel? If you feel good, you might be doing good enough. That might be all you need to know. Or if you're interested, you could get an individualized assessment from a qualified physical therapist or coach who might tell you more about, hey, you're limited in X, Y, and Z area.
And why we feel this is so important is so many injuries happen at end ranges when you're fully lengthened or fully shortened. So that's why we want to get some strength through that. So take it through. So many people do strength training in all these partial ranges because they can do more. They can put more weight on the bar. And it's like there's a time and a place for that, but as a whole, make sure you're touching those just to make those joints a little bit more bulletproof.
Absolutely. All right, so moving on to strength. That's a good segue too. Concept, we want to be strong, stable, and have enough muscle mass to prevent injury, enhance performance, have healthy body composition, and to support longevity, right? That's what we're after here. What methods are we going to use to do that? We're going to train our major movement patterns, so pushing, pulling, squatting, hinging, not just doing bicep curls after a run, right? We're going to apply progressive overload over time, so in some way, whether that's more weight, more reps, more sets. And for most people, 2 to 3 full body sessions a week is pretty ideal here, but you could add in more isolation work or more volume of work in that week as desired by your goals. But those would be the methods you're going to use to meet the concept. What are your performance indicators here in the strength category? How do you know if you're strong enough? You can test your grip strength. That's just a good proxy for your overall strength, and there's lots of data to compare yourself to your peers. You could do body composition scans. That's not measuring strength directly, but measuring muscle mass. Which again, there's lots of data to compare yourself to your peers and compare yourself to yourself over time. You could do true peak strength tests with kind of like 1 to 5 rep tests on things like deadlifts or squats or presses or pull-ups. Also want to say, don't forget about power, moving, using force quickly. So things like your vertical jump or your broad jump or moving weight quickly. And then you could also do strength endurance tests like a wall sit, or how many push-ups can you do, or how heavy weight can you hold for a minute, things like that.
Yeah, and something, especially for me as I'm getting much older than this young pup, is just power is the first thing that tends to go. The foundation of power is strength, but just can I add some sort of a speed component to that, especially if that's something you desire. Athleticism is something that's there, being able to keep up with the kids. Like I said, the power things are stuff for me that I have to stay on top of, but again, strength is the foundation of that.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so we've covered mobility and strength. Let's now talk about cardiovascular health.
4 minutes, doing great.
We're doing all right. Doing all right. So our concept here, have a high functioning engine to support performance and all other systems in your body, right? The methods we're going to use here are a few. Looking to accumulate just more general movement. Can you be someone who's getting 8 to 12,000 steps a day? Put your phone in your pocket for a couple days if you don't have a watch and just see how much movement you're accumulating throughout the day. Accumulate some low intensity cardiovascular work, so classically steady state stuff like running, biking, swimming, hiking, or also through play. Maybe you're someone who plays tennis after work twice a week. You're going to get a lot of that low intensity time there. And do some high intensity work. 1 to 2 times a week, work hard, get huffing and puffing hard, challenge your system. Okay? How do you know if you're doing enough here? Some indicators are your resting heart rate. Below 60 is generally a good goal. Some people will just naturally be higher than that, but the lower the better. Heart rate recovery. You can do this anytime you get huffing and puffing. Okay, lay down for a minute. How many beats per minute does my heart rate drop in a minute? 30 to 40 plus is a good goal there. Any sort of repeatable fitness test, like a timed mile run from your high school PE class. Okay, if you did it in X time and then took 30 seconds off, you're fitter now. A VO2 max test is a gold standard here, administered in a lab, or you can estimate it with some other exercises. Just look it up online or check out our other podcasts where we deep dive that more. But again, lots of data to compare yourself to your peers here, just like grip strength for strength.
So something that Kyle mentioned, just want to make sure we don't completely gloss over, is we spend a lot of time in this more lower intensity stuff, and then we have some time we're high. So we're not trying to do as much in this middle road unless we're really trying to train. Let's say I'm going to be doing a 10K. So it's going to require some of that. It's not true speed. It's not true low intensity. We're going to need some of that. But as a whole, that can be pretty challenging on the nervous system. So you'll spend some time there, but try to spend more higher or lower. Couple times a week, if you're done and you're laying on the floor panting and you're checking that, hey, can I get to drop 40 beats? We're not doing that 6 days a week. It's going to fry you. You're not going to look forward to it. It's going to suck. So do it once or twice, but when you go, don't wait. It's all out. And the other ones is, hey, I'm doing this. I'm going for a little jog with Kyle, but we can have a conversation. So it's a low enough level so it's not terribly challenging and it's easy for our body to recover.
Love it. Cool. So that'll wrap up our exercise section. Let's move on to nutrition. Okay. So looking at total caloric intake first is our first big concept in nutrition here. Your caloric balance equation determines whether you are gaining, losing, or maintaining body weight. Okay. Calories out from the exercise in your day, but also through your basal metabolic rate is actually the biggest piece of it. Just how much would you burn just existing, even if you did nothing that day. Activity from non-exercise related tasks, etc., versus calories in. How much are you consuming? Okay. The methods you have to play with this equation are many, but it is easier to manipulate the calories inside of the equation. It's easier to not eat the donut than to burn the donut off. Okay. Eating slowly to 80% full and or tracking in some form, whether that's using hand portions or using a calorie tracking app, can be helpful for controlling intake. Other ways you can indirectly control intake would be limiting certain foods or limiting the times that you eat. Those things aren't guaranteed to work because you still could eat more in that time window, or you could eat more despite not eating that one thing, but that's an indirect way to try to control your intake. So those are methods available for you. How do you know what's happening here? What's your performance indicator? The results, right? If you're gaining weight, you're in a surplus on average. Are you losing weight? You're in a deficit on average. Are you maintaining weight? You're at neutral on average, right? Those all you need to know.
Yeah, so the most important thing in my opinion here is tracking. How do we know if these things are happening? Are we doing it on a regular basis? When we make an adjustment, do one thing, leave it. What happens? Does it go up? Does it go down? Does it go more for or against or no change? And then change one more thing, go from there versus just throwing everything out there. You may or may not get results, but it's really hard to know what should I change, what should I tweak? I don't know. So just have a good system of tracking. You need some ideas, reach out.
Love it. Okay, we're falling a little bit behind pace. Let's see if we can catch back up. Protein is our next big concept. Protein is the most important macronutrient. You need it to build muscle and for many other functions in your body. You can't store it as well, and it's satiating, so it helps you not overeat other things. Get 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight per day. What are your methods to do that? If you're not intentional about doing this, you're not doing it. Okay? Track a few typical days for yourself to see where you're at. Okay? Have lean protein with every meal is another good method. You don't have to track for forever, even if you just have a good portion of protein with every meal. This can be done even if you're vegetarian or plant-based, but just requires extra intentionality. You can also track in palms as opposed to grams. So a palm of meat, a cup of Greek yogurt, a scoop of protein powder, anything that's about 25 grams, count that as a palm, figure out how many palms you need in a day, and that can be a very simple tracking method for you. How do you know if you're doing enough here? If you aren't tracking, again, just track for a few days, every now and then. And if you are in this range of 0.7 to 1 gram per pound, you're good. That's it.
If you're trying to really lean out, generally aim for that higher end, around that 1 gram per pound. If versus like you're trying to put on mass, then you could probably do a little bit better being on the lower end because you're going to be putting in a surplus of this fat and carbohydrates and stuff. Again, listen to our other podcasts regarding that if you're interested to hear more.
Indeed. Okay, moving on to our last big nutrition topic, quality whole foods to surround that protein, right? Get the majority of your intake from whole foods. They have a higher nutrient density and are more satiating. Your methods here, colorful veggies, high fiber, slow digesting carbohydrates like fruits, legumes, potatoes, healthy fats, olive oil, avocado, nuts. Just in general, minimal processed food. It's going to be stripped of the kind of the quality nutrients that are coming along with the energy content in those whole foods. And it's designed to light up your brain, make you reach for more, empty the bag, buy it again, right? Lay's potato chips, bet you can't have just one, right? So it doesn't mean you can't have any processed food, but just the less the better, right? What is your performance indicator here? You're just gonna feel better. You're just gonna feel better if you do this, trust us, right? You're gonna be sick less, you're gonna recover faster when you do get sick. Your weight and body composition are easier to control, again, just because it's harder to overeat. And yeah, so just quality whole foods.
And if you have an opportunity to have a farmer's market near you guys, take advantage of that. Eating seasonally is so good, especially with this Whole Foods. You're not going to find a bunch of Lay's potato chips at a farmer's market. Not that I've been to, at least.
Indeed.
But you'll notice that naturally, summertime, there's more sweetness. The sun's out longer. You want to be outside. Wintertime, you tend to eat a little less sweet. You might have a little bit more of these starchier things like your squashes and soups and chilies and that kind of stuff. So that's a great way to support your local farmers and then eat seasonally. And they're great at doing that because they pick it and bring it fresh.
And you can also think about this as a spectrum too, right? So it's not that some certain foods are good, others are bad, right? If you're having a donut for breakfast, hey, a bagel's probably better, and then a whole grain piece of toast is probably better, and then a piece of fruit's probably better, right? It's a spectrum, not good or bad. Don't get into either or thinking. Just try to be better, more whole foods. Right? Our last kind of general area is going to be sleep and stress management. So let's talk about sleep first. Okay? Our main concept here, get 7 to 9 hours a night, and hopefully with less than an hour variance in your bed and wake times. Okay? Methods here. Morning sunlight in your eyes is hugely important for setting your circadian rhythm, so recommending kind of 5 to 10 minutes on a sunny day, a little bit longer on a cloudy day. No caffeine, ideally for the first 30 minutes of the day, is going to be huge for helping your body. Again, we talk about that more in some of our other pods, but just it'll help your body's circadian rhythm a little bit to not go caffeine right away or too late. Try to resist having caffeine after noon if possible. Have some sort of wind down routine, maybe a warm shower, a cool sleeping environment, no screens for the hour before bed, a calming activity before bed, limiting alcohol consumption, especially within 2 hours before bed, and then have a cool, dark, quiet sleep environment. All those things will help with your sleep. Performance indicator. Again, you feel better when you sleep better. A line from our Sleep 101 podcast from Peter was, no one who sleeps like crap feels great, right? Your total sleep time is going to improve. You're going to fall asleep and stay asleep easier. And you can use a sleep tracking device to help learn what does and doesn't work well for you. Just be wary down the road of the placebo effect of it telling you had a bad night's sleep and now you feel crappy. Only thought there.
And as you can see, most of these were like, oh, yeah, I know, but go through, right? How many do you do these on a consistent basis? Oh, on my vacation I did this when I was this, but we tend to just take these for granted. We get so stuck in our day-to-day rhythms and stress and work and my kids did this and that. So what are your systems you have in place? How you go to bed and your evening routine sets you up for sleep, helps you up for success the next day. What you do in the morning, again, learning back in our kind of fun little morning routines that we have. If you win the morning, you pretty much are going to win the day. If you don't, Who knows?
Love it, love it. Okay, we're at a minute and a half for our last section. We're doing good.
Do it.
Hey, stress, just in general, have tools to manage it. Know how, the main concept here is know how to down-regulate and switch from your fight or flight mode to your rest and recover mode. Okay, your methods here are many options here. Big themes are like gentle movement, yoga, soft tissue work. Getting outside is another big one. There's just a lot of research on people just feeling more relaxed when they get outside in nature. Having quality relationships, being around friends and family, having hobbies maybe that are different than your work that help you again create separation in your life. Journaling practices, meditation practices, breath work. There's many things you can do here. Find what works for you. Just have some time blocked into your day for this, and then maybe tools you can go to during periods of higher stress. Hey, maybe this isn't something I need to do every single day, but oh man, this week's been tough. This week I really need to prioritize this additionally and work some extra habits in. Okay. Performance indicator, how do you know how you're doing here? Again, you feel better when you're less stressed, right? Your average stress throughout the day is lower, or it just feels easier to manage. I'm busy, but it doesn't bother me as much. You get sick less, recover faster when you do, you feel more in control of your life.
And just that list that kind of Kyle went through, it's really cool sometimes to be able to combine. You can do 3, 4, 5 of those things all at once. I can go to the beach with my significant other, put my feet into the sand. We're going to do some intentional breath work and mobility. Amazing things can happen.
1502.
Prove it. Just want you guys to see.
1502.
It's possible.
All right. Well, we'll put almost in the title. Everything that matters for your health in 15 minutes, almost. All right. In summary, exercise. Move your joints through full ranges of motion. Do some serious strength training. Get your heart rate up. Put quality fuel in your body. Be aware of your total intake. Eat slowly and mindfully. Get sufficient protein and prioritize quality whole foods. And then sleep well and manage your stress. Life puts a lot on your plate. Take time for yourself, prioritize this. You're going to be better equipped to handle everything else and just enjoy life more along the way, right? Peter, do you know anyone who does all those things the bulk of the time who's not an unhealthy person?
Ooh, I'd have to really think about that.
Exactly.
That would be tough. Very few. I know plenty who excel in some areas and not so much in others. And then anytime you ask them to do more of that, they go back to what they're good at. So that's where I would, again, really, as you go through this list, you listen to this, I bet you have one, I have a couple in there that I go, I suck at that. I need to do better. If I want to get better, what's that low-hanging fruit? I'm going to put more attention to that. And then what's really cool is almost all those other things get better, even without doing any extra time with them.
Indeed.
So.
Yeah. One of our biggest passions when we started to get into kind of doing more of this educational work was helping people just make sure all these big rocks were covered before they got crazy deep dived into any one area. Sometimes people are worrying about the tiniest details in one of these categories and are just doing terrible in another category. Hey, just at least do the minimum in all these areas before you dive into any of the others. And if you want to, because you're passionate about it, great, by all means. But just make sure you're covering these big rocks. Hopefully this summary helps you do that. Again, exercise, quality fuel, sleep well and manage stress, and just check those boxes.
Pick that weak link, make it happen.
Love it. All right. Thanks for your time, and we'll catch you next time.